Welcome to administering tests for the FSA, EOC, and the CFEs. The goal of this training is to understand the importance of test security, appropriately administer any state-required test, and to troubleshoot any testing challenges that you may have. When talking about test security, remember the goal is to protect the content of the test from being distributed to teachers or students inappropriately. That makes sure that any test scores that are recorded are accurate for measuring student progress. We maintain security by making sure all testing materials are kept secure. That includes paper-based materials and any materials related to computer-based testing. That way, we don't make any information available to students until we are directed to by our testing scripts. Teachers must remain vigilant in keeping materials locked up and secure. The number one reason why test scores become invalidated is because students have electronic devices during testing. So it is important that teachers are vigilant in collecting and maintaining electronic devices during testing. Also, you want to be continuously monitoring students that are testing to prevent any cheating. The consequences of not being vigilant are that student scores may be invalidated, and thus their graduation status may be in jeopardy. For you as a teacher, your certification may be revoked, and therefore no future employment will be available to you. Finally, your reputation as a professional able to conduct a valid test session will be endangered. In administering the test, before the test starts, you want to make sure your room is ready. You need to cover or remove all materials that can be used as any reference for testing. Make sure your desks are arranged and spaced out enough so that students will not be able to see other students' screens or worksheets. If you have tables in your room, you want to put dividers up between all students sitting together at tables. Also, you may want to consider putting out materials before testing starts, but not test tickets. Only worksheets, pencils, and reference sheets need to be distributed. That way, there's no delay in passing out materials once time starts. You also want to think about arranging students so that you eliminate any distractions. If you know that two students frequently talk to each other, you may consider separating them during testing. Before the test, you want to make sure you have some way of accurately timing the test. It could be a watch, it could be an online testing clock, but make sure you have that available before you start. You want to also take your own cell phone and turn it off or put it on vibrate. Also, turn down your desk phone so that you can still hear it, but it minimizes any distractions. Have all students make sure they turn off their electronic devices and put them in their bags if they have a bag. Remind them that during testing, just having a device within reach is reason for invalidation. You want to have students put all their bags in one place in your room that's away from testing. That way, nobody can reach any devices during testing. When students get on their computers, they will log themselves off and log in with the given test credentials. That will be part of your testing materials. When you're reading your script for testing, you'll want to choose option A for how students are to end the test when they are done. When starting testing, the very most important thing to remember is that you must read the script verbatim. You want to make sure that you're reading the correct script for the correct testing session. For instance, if it's day 2, you want to make sure your script says session 2. Most importantly, do not deviate from the script. While testing is going on, you will need to circulate constantly. That is the only sure way to make sure that security is maintained. You do not want to be at your computer. Students are pretty savvy, and they know when the teacher's attention is not on the class, and they will take advantage of it. But if you are circulating constantly, students have a minimal chance of taking advantage of your inattention. Of course, you may glance at emails just to make sure there are no updates that are being sent out during testing, but anything beyond that will put you at risk for having an invalidation. Students are allowed to use the restroom one at a time, but do not allow students to take their bags with them. If a student needs to get something out of their bag to take to the restroom, make sure you monitor that carefully. If they were to take an electronic device with them to the bathroom, their test would be invalidated. Make sure that you time the test accurately. You want to also, while you're wandering, make sure that students are working in the correct section of the test. Now, for the FSA tests that take 2 days, make sure you do not approve a student going on to a second session on the first day of testing. Now, they cannot go on to that second session unless you approve it as the test administrator. So while you're on your console, please read all computer messages that pop up carefully before you approve anything. Also, don't forget, attendance and timing are very important for us to monitor the testing. So make sure you post your attendance and timing chart on the outside of your door as soon as you can after testing starts. Now, very importantly, during testing, your job is to monitor the students. However, you are not allowed to provide any assistance to students regarding the content of the test. You can only provide technical assistance for students to get into the test. So you cannot read questions or directions to them. You cannot clarify questions or directions for them. And you cannot ask questions about the test. Your job is to monitor the students as they take the test. It's up to the students to deal with the content of the test. When it comes to the end of the test, you don't want students submitting their tests early. You want to have them wait until the full time is given. So that's why we read option A. However, if a student does submit their answers early, there's no need to contact administration, but you do want to urge students as testing starts to take the entire testing time. Once the test is done and time is up, you want to collect all materials. If you gave it to a student to use, you need to collect it back. Please sort all your test materials into groups. For instance, put all your testing tickets together, all your worksheets together, all your security materials together in one pile. Finally, secure your testing materials. Do not leave them in any unlocked area. Return them as soon as possible. At the end of the test, it's important that you complete all your testing forms, which includes your testing roster, security log, seating chart, invalidation forms, if you had any invalidations, and your bathroom log. You want to group all materials again and put them back in your bin. So put all testing tickets together in one pile, all worksheets together in one pile, and all security forms in one pile. But do not release students until you are directed to do so. If a student can't log into the computer, here's a couple things you can try. Restarting the computer or turning the wireless connection on and off usually will get a student back into the test. You also want to make sure they are typing in the testing credentials correctly. Now, during the test, if a student gets kicked out, it's very easy. Just have the student navigate back to the test login screen and log in again, and then you go to your console and approve the student. Most likely, the student will not lose any information. If this does happen repeatedly, though, for a particular student, you want to contact your testing coordinator to see if we have any alternative testing methods at the time. Once again, remember, having students log off and log back in or restart the computer will fix the majority of the problems. If a student loses time, you want to keep track of that and be able to add that time back at the end of testing for that student. If you find a student in possession of an electronic device, whether it's turned off or not, there is no leeway for that. If they have the device, the test must be invalidated. So don't just say, put the device away and continue testing. You want to direct your student to log off of the test immediately. Now, they don't have to submit their test, they just need to log off of the test. You want to collect their materials so they cannot log back into the test. If you can confiscate the device without disrupting the rest of the student's testing, then go ahead and do so. But do make sure you pick up all of the student's testing materials. If the student can sit the rest of the time quietly, please let them. But if they cannot, you want to call the grade level office to remove the student. Once again, the whole idea is try not to disrupt the other students taking the test. Make sure that if you do have a student with an electronic device, you complete the invalidation form. If you see a student obviously cheating, looking at other students' work, copying answers, or anything like that, you want to direct the student to log off the test. Again, no need to have them submit. Logging off the test will be enough. You want to make sure you collect all that student's testing material so they cannot log back into the test. And if the student can sit the rest of the time quietly, go ahead and let them. If not, go ahead and contact your grade level administrator to have the student removed. If a student is disruptive, you want to give them a chance to go back to testing, and you want to remind that student that other students need a quiet testing room. However, if the disruption does continue, please call the grade level administrator to have the student removed. Now, if the student cannot log themselves off the test, go ahead and log them off. But if you cannot log the student off, contact the testing coordinator to log the student off for you. If you have a student who is asleep, you want to look at that student's progress. If they're done with the test, then you probably can leave that student alone. However, if they're not done, and you can wake them up with minimal disruption, go ahead and do so. However, if the student will be disruptive, then go ahead and let them continue to sleep. If a student goes to the restroom and doesn't come back in a timely manner within a few minutes, you want to contact your grade level administrator to go check on that student. If a student becomes sick, now if it's before testing, it's better that the student leaves the testing area before testing starts, because they can take the makeup session once they come back. Once a student starts the test and leaves campus, they cannot make up that test. So if testing has not started yet and it looks like the student's not going to make it, please go ahead and send them to the clinic. However, if it's during testing and the student becomes sick, then go ahead and have the student log off their test and contact the front office to have someone take the student to the clinic. Once again, if they leave campus once testing has started, they will not be able to make up their test. Now, if any bodily fluids get on any testing materials, go ahead and contact your testing coordinator because they have procedures for handling that. If you have any questions, clarifications, or comments about your testing, please contact these folks. If it's about computers, hardware, software, please go ahead and contact your technology support representative. If you have any other questions about how to run test sessions, handling security materials, go ahead and contact your testing coordinator.